Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Curiosity podcast, where I'm joined with Adam Oldfield from Force 24. Welcome, Adam. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Charlie. Nice to see you again.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I love about Adam and Force 24, because I've used their platform, and I very much value the fact that customer service lies very much at the heart of everything that Force 24 does. And also, I also think it's a little bit bonkers why anybody would embark on a journey of developing their own marketing automation tool. So I thought it would be really fun to get Adam on the podcast and talk a little bit more about what madness drove him to starting this business, and also teach a few things along the way. So you started Force 24 in 2010. So pretty much, like, what made you start a marketing automation company?
You know, when you put it like that, I'm questioning it myself. Actually, it's really strange. So I didn't know what marketing automation was. I didn't even know that there was an industry called marketing automation. I just knew that there was a need. There was something that I wanted to be able to do for a particular client. At the time, I thought, you just can't do this. You just can't seem to do it. And I don't think many of the products had come across from North America. You know, the Hubspots. They were here in sort of embryonic fashions and Marketos of this world. They were here, but nobody really was exposing them, and nobody really knew what it was. And the term marketing automation hadn't really been coined. So it just seemed like an opportunity. If I'd have known now what I knew, if I'd have known, you know what I mean, I probably wouldn't have done, because of the fact, the mountain that you have to climb, the what you have to go through in order to manage that amount of data, that amount of clients in order to make it profitable is just ludicrous. It would have seemed like a much more daunting task, but at the time it felt like a really sensible thing to do. But also, I don't know if you believe in fate or divine interventions and things, but I actually had this bolt from the blue sort of moment where I was driving home from work, where I worked at the time, and I had this like just thing that hit me, and I was saying, it was like a bolt from the blue. It was like an injection of all the words, right? So the name of the company, what it did, almost like what its mission statement was, and it was the weirdest thing ever. So I got home and I opened up Keynote on my laptop, and I just threw it all onto this Keynote Pres. And as I was reading this sort of Keynote Pres back to me myself later on, it was like, oh my God, did I actually write that? I mean, because it was like, these aren't the words that I'd normally use. And it was weird. So I kind of took that as a bit of almost like, maybe this is something I should be doing. Maybe there's a higher power at play here. So
I'm very much a believer that everything happens for a reason. There's always there's always an opportunity with every single challenge as well. So even if you think it's a bit challenging, there's always an opportunity in there somewhere. So exactly. You started this company in 2010. A marketing automation company, and you're kind of going up head to head with sort of some of the kind of big names in the industry, like you said, HubSpot, Marketo, Pardot. And because I know I can't even remember, I think it was word of mouth referral that I came to you, because I was reviewing HubSpot and Marketo at the time when I was working as a marketer. And, just to give a bit of context, you're like, how big is the company again? You're a small company based in Leeds in the UK, right?
We are. We're based in the UK, and there's now we've got an office in Romania as well. So this is where all our engineering work's done now, out in Romania. But in Leeds, there's 42, 3, 4, or 5 of us. I'm not entirely sure actually at this exact moment. So we're tiny. But interestingly, we've all heard of Campaign Monitor, right? That was a huge sensation. I think it set up in about 2002 or 3 or something like that, based in Melbourne, Australia, or Sydney. I might be totally wrong. But the famous part was that they served the globe and had 17 employees for a long, long period of time. Now they've got much bigger. But yeah, no, it's an accolade to take money out of their pockets off our own merit, really, because, you think about it. Imagine if you put it in the context of buying a car. You've got a BMW or an Audi, or then, you've got some brand from Leeds that you've never even heard of. There's no chance you'd do it. You wouldn't take that risk. But thankfully, this marketplace isn't quite like that. And marketers are a little bit more open-minded to trying new things, and there is no necessary brand association. So it means we've got a chance against these guys, and we're doing very well. And our UK market share, which we are predominantly UK focused, but our UK market share is sort of rapidly growing. We're about 2,500 users at the last count, so that might be about 2,800 users now. Retention rate at 97%. It's good. It's going well.
So how do you stand out so much in an industry against such big, well-known players, sort of big, well-known international players? Like, what are your kind of key learnings or key pieces of advice for other companies that are sort of small fish in big ponds, if you like?
You know what? Good luck to you if you find yourself in this boat. It's no mean feat, but there's two distinct audiences in our world, and we sort of cottoned onto this recently, and that is people going up and people coming down. And what that means is that for us to compete against Marketo and HubSpot and the likes, when people are coming back down, so they've spent 2 years with Marketo, they've spent 3 years with HubSpot, whatever, it's very easy for us to demonstrate why we're different, because they understand the market, they understand the product, they understand the weaknesses they're going to face, and they understand where they're going to need support. So it's very easy for us to demonstrate, this is how we handle that. Problem is, so we understand that that's one market. We understand that's one group of users, and we've identified that. And in any industry, in any product where you are competing, you've got people going either way. So that's one. The second one, obviously, is the people that are new to the technology, new to the approaches, that they're much harder to convince, much harder. So these guys are perhaps a little bit more flattered by the bright lights, which is understandable. We all are. And it's a harder sell to be able to say, look, we're a little bit cheaper, but that's not enough. It's not about the money. It's the messaging, it's the brand, it's everything that they're aligning with. And as a marketeer coming into this space for the first time, you feel like you want to align with a brand that you've heard of before. And that's been one of our big focuses, to become a brand you've heard of, which, as you can imagine, is really hard. But that sort of, we started to understand that that's two very different types of people, and we treat them very differently, very, very differently. And as soon as we can identify them, we then hive them off over here and talk to them like this. And then these guys, we hive them off of there and we talk to them like that. So my biggest tip really would be about get to know the types of people that may buy your product and start to understand them. You're not necessarily saying, well, if you're a plumber, I'm going to talk to you like this. If you're a carpenter, I'm going to talk to you like this. It's for us, we found it's more about where you've been and where you're going that makes the difference.
That is such great advice, because I think there's a lot of, and especially on this podcast, we've talked a lot about defining your audience and understanding the market that you're selling to. And then you're kind of like taking it one step further by saying, well, you need to understand where the customer's at in their journey with the technology. Yeah, do you need to educate them about the technology first, or are they already aware of it? And then it's just a case of educating them about the benefits. And there's a lot of tech companies out there that are in that space where they do have two different types of user, and I don't think a lot of people consider that. So that's brilliant advice. But at what point during the last sort of 9 years did you realize that?
Quite late on. Well, probably within the last 3 years or so. There's a number of factors that sort of highlighted that to us. Number one, our own technology started to evolve considerably, and so we were able to get a greater sight into the metrics. I've always been a bit of a geek in a lot of respects, in that data's been one of my sort of it sounds really, really sad to say passions. It's because it's not a passion.
Passionate about the data.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds really weird just saying that, but anyway, the point is, actually, it's data holds the key. Everything, for whatever it is, whether you want to fly to Mars, whatever it is, data will always hold the key. The point is, it's being able to use data, and not many people can use data. So when you're looking at reams and reams of data and thousands of interactions from web, email, whatever, what does it mean? And so there was a point about 3 years ago when we introduced a feature within our platform which enabled us to visualize data a little bit better. And that helped me massively. So it was all about understanding that message. When I talk to you about booking a demo, about looking at these wonderful, great features, it doesn't work. You don't care. But my open rates and everything, and this is something else I want to talk about later on, is the vanity metrics of this world. But everything looks average, everything looks normal. But when I start to look at my two groups, when I started to identify that, hold on, we might have switchers and we might have virgins, and when I started to look at that through data, I was able to say, oh yeah, they are falling flat on their arse whenever we talk about feature, whenever we talk about, but when we talk about support, that audience dies and that audience comes to life. And this is where it starts getting interesting. I mean, obviously that's real high level. It was much more complicated than that, but I probably only sort of really grasped this in the last couple of years because technology enabled me to grasp it really. And it was by chance I uncovered it, or we uncovered it. I'm not taking all the glory.
So were you one of the very few people that were really excited about the prospect of GDPR, as opposed to most of us that were like, oh my God.
Well, yeah, you could say that. I mean, you could say it was like the Wild West before, but I don't think it was. I do think GDPR was a very positive thing to have happened within the world. The interesting thing is that, obviously, in the midst of our political situation with the EU at the moment, obviously it was an EU collaborative initiative to across the whole of the EU. It would have been more beneficial if it was a world union initiative, because it's great as a UK business working to the UK, as an EU-based business working to the EU rules, but then you move it out to the North America and it doesn't apply anymore. Things don't matter. So I think actually GDPR was it was brilliant because it meant actually people did stupid things. People did not understand what they had to do, and they ditched out the mailing lists and they killed things, and you didn't need to do all of that. Maybe you did, I don't know, but most people didn't. But then what it did do was it encouraged people to start thinking properly about data, and that's what they needed to do from the start.
Yeah, and on the data side of things, especially because I went to a marketing summit last week, and I was sat amongst a range of people in the audience. So it was a range of marketers. I never know what is our label these days. Sort of small business owners, larger business owners. So it was a real mix of people in the crowd. And one of the key themes was that a lot of the things that marketers are talking about was way too overwhelming for smaller businesses. Yes. Because they just, you need to monitor this, you need to track this, you need to focus on this, and it's all very, very overwhelming. So email marketing is still such a huge part of business, and it's such a hugely valuable part of business. What would you say to sort of smaller businesses that are feeling that overwhelm, or even larger businesses that are feeling that overwhelm? Because we've spoken before about focusing on the right thing rather than on everything.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point, Charlie, because I go to these events on a regular basis, and I agree. We often give talks, and we've sat in the audience, and some of the audience isn't a marketeer, and some of them are small business marketers, some of them are enterprise. And it's so difficult to deliver a message that works across the whole, and it's very easy for somebody in my position or in your position or whoever, to try and, always be hitting the impressive notes, the stuff that is wowing people, but actually it's just going, oh, shut up. So even when I'm talking about the data, and all that stuff, even that sounds a little bit like maybe you've gone a bit. So I don't think necessarily the industry and our counterparts in the industry have done enough to educate the marketplace as to what actually does matter. And if you indulge me, because this is one of my bugbears actually, Charlie, and that is this is the reporting, and this is the world of vanity metrics.
Oh, one of my big topics too.
Okay, so vanity metrics, and the term vanity metrics is the thing that most of the marketing world actually focus on, and these are the things like an email open rate, classic, keeping it within email open rate, or an email click rate. It's a vanity metric. If I want to increase my open rates, do you know what? I just send to some less people that don't open my emails, and then all of a sudden my open rates go up a little bit. Now, and as I've said to you before, that's a vanity metric because my open rate has literally no correlation to my business bottom line whatsoever. I can have an amazing open rate and be losing money, or not losing money, be receiving less sales, whatever. It doesn't matter. So where I said before, what I think our counterparts have not done a good enough job, because they've set a lot of the charges here, and they have not educated the world towards to looking at data reporting. And if I showed you the dashboard that I look at, and it's just some graphs, right? You probably get it on Google Analytics, but it's just some graphs of how a segment engages. But when I look at it, I can see when there's times when the segment or the data, that particular group of people they're more engaged. The line's up like this, and there's times where it's like this. and it's like this again. And then, so I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, maybe seasonality is a factor here. Maybe people have things that, outside their work life in a B2B context that influence when they open emails during work time. School holidays, I can't think straight because the kids are running around me. I'm working from home, whatever. And then things like that. And then the other one that we focus on, which is the data within the data reporting, is lead scoring. And lead scoring is a cold hard killer. It is literally, you could map your sort of inquiries and your lead score, and they'd mirror each other identically. So average lead score in a segment versus average inquiry, it's like bang on. And in fact, actually, lead score is the precursor. So you see lead scores go up, and then you see inquiries come in. So I'm looking at a graph in my dashboard, which is like seasonality, lead score, average lead score for the users within my segment, and then I'm looking at a growth in a segment. And I know the thing is, that's, you can get some of this in Google Analytics, you can get all of it in Force 24, and that's where being the MD of a software company is great, because I get to say what goes in my toy box and what toys we get to play with. And it's kind of like when we show people and put narrative to these things, it's like, oh yeah, I get why you've done that. That's pretty cool.
That leads me on to my next point, which is a really good point, because again, one of the other things that I like about Force 24 is that you're constantly innovating and you're constantly updating the platform. You start thinking of new things, new features to introduce. How easy has it been, or what is the driving force behind that constant innovation with what you're doing?
Okay, good question. It's really easy, really, really easy. So interestingly, in the last 18 months, we've released 1,000 and I think it's about 60 releases back into our product environment. Some of those are big things, some of those are little things. It'd be fair to say that there's a proportion of those that are bug fixes, improvements, speed, simple UI alts, whatever. But then it's that, how do you know you're spending the development resource in stuff people want to buy? And we made a decision a while ago, and that was that we're going to offer free training and support to life for all of our customers. Why? Is it because we're just really stupid and we can't charge for training revenue? No, because it gives us that insight that says people lean on us. People lean on us and our team every day. And then the moment something shows up and it becomes a recurring theme, it just then gets escalated, and because it's burdening our support channels. When we've got a significant burden on our support channel from something, it gets development focused because it's free and it's a big cost. So, and then the other thing is, so this is sort of, you've got three levels. You've got your bug fixing, you've got your tweaks and improvements, and then you've got your features and they're sort of born out of user stories. So the big headline stuff, like we recently released an update to our microsite editor and our what we call Genius blocks, and it's like, where are we going with those and how do we think about those? And it's easy because we as a business understand what we're here to do. As a role, we understand what our role in the world is, and that is we hold data and we analyze data, contact data. So I hold your details and I've got your name, I've got, when you started buying from us, what you've bought from us, all this kind of stuff. We hold all that data. And our role is to analyze that data all the time. And output channels, email, SMS, social, whatever, they're going to come and go, and different ones are going to come in and they're going to go. And there's different uses of how we use that data. And these are the things so we're thinking sort of 10 years ahead really in our thinking now. And we're bringing it back down to where we can use what we can use now, and in the technologies that we can use now. But we know where this industry is going to go, and we know that it's going to be all about holding these huge data warehouses and actioning conversation off the back of these data warehouses automatically. And that's what it's about. And the channels, like I said, they come, they go, and our job is to make sure that we remain in charge of our position in the world.
There's a really great theme there, which is around listening to what's coming in from a customer service point of view. I preach on about this all of the time, because especially one of the biggest challenges in tech, and especially in B2B from where I see it, is that sales and marketing don't talk to one another. But then there is another level onto that, in that customer service also needs to be part of that conversation, because it's customer service that are very customer facing. So they hear all of the problems, the challenges, the frustrations, and that they need to then be informing sales and marketing. to then continually develop. So yeah, absolutely brilliant point. And I hope that a lot of our listeners are kind of like listening to this thinking, do I spend enough time listening to customer service and what our customers are talking about? What do they want? What do they need? And, in what language are they asking for those features as well?
You know what's interesting though, Charlie, is because now I look at it, I think, oh yeah, I meant to do that. It really, I don't want to sound like, we've got everything right in the world, but it's just that, now you say it like that, it's really obvious, isn't it? The customer service, they're in touch with the customers. They know where the product's falling down, where it's strong, so they're the ones that, and it's true. But then again, a lot of businesses try to shy away from and try to automate that process to the best of their ability. So they're not actually having that human interaction. And what we find is when a human has the conversation with a user, rather than just a bot or a support channel where we can look at the traffic to certain articles and things like that, we actually start to pick apart whether there's a weakness in the training, the sales process, or the platform. And that's where those help articles, do we need to say something different in the sales process that makes you understand better about what that does? Do we need to train you better because actually you totally missed the point of what that bit does? Or is it the fact that it's just not very clear, it's not very easy to use? So, and you know what? Unless you've got that one-to-one, unless you try and welcome in those comments, you sat forever and a day wondering.
And that's why I think the challenge. You can't look at marketing in isolation. You can't look at sales in isolation. You can't look at customer service in isolation because you could be making so much revenue from product sales because your sales team are amazing, your marketing team are bringing in loads of leads, but then your messaging might be a little bit off, so your customer service costs are absolutely huge, so therefore you're making less profit. And you can only sort of like identify where you need to focus on fixing if you actually look at all different areas of the business. And I think about this now and I'm just like, wow, it's the same with what you said. If you knew then what you know now, you could just have done something, done everything so much easier, faster and better.
Oh, definitely. And actually that retention rate is the core metric in our entire business. So it's linked into sales, it's linked into support, it's linked into marketing, it's everything. So retention rate ups and downs are like, whoa, what's happened there? What did we say differently? Because it's so important that you get that retention rate up and maintain it. So
what would you say? Because I think from my point of view, that's where I feel like there's the real opportunity for smaller businesses because they can look at all elements of the business and it's a lot easier to make informed decisions based on that data than larger organizations that have already got all of these like really clear established systems and processes and not necessarily talking to one another. Did you do that in your business or has that just been like a kind of like learning curve over the years?
Yes, learning curve over the years. I'd love to be able to say, it's all part of the master plan, but it wasn't. These are the vanilla bits. These are the bits around the side that you don't necessarily think about when you're forming the business plan and you're developing the product and the teams to support it. These are the bits that you find when that team starts to let you down because they're not talking to that team, and that's and this is the glue that sits in the middle. So no, we probably were late to the party on this as well. So it's you can go so far, but then you've got to start to grease those wheels, and that's where we're finding now. I mean, the training and support has always been a thing for us. It's always been that's just who we are. Because call me quite patriotic or whatever you like, but I do find the Brits are actually pretty good at client services. Hospitality, we're terrible.
Depends who you ask.
Well, yeah. Well, depends who you ask. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. But in terms of customer services, we've got a slightly different mentality, and that is we will go that extra mile to make sure that you're happy, or we'll make sure that if things aren't going so well, maybe we'll just knock a little bit off, or we'll make sure that this is right, or we'll do that, or we'll invest in that for you, and that's where we go. Whereas we do tend to see that there's a very hard line from our friends across the pond, which perhaps is a little bit more aggressive, and who knows. But it's just it's the route we've chosen, and we're proud to be, quite an ethical and supporting company.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I loved about working with you guys, because I was definitely one of those more challenging clients, because email marketing, email automation, because I'm not a trained marketer. This was never ingrained in me when I went to school. I was an engineer, so I was much more interested in the code and getting behind the scenes and figuring out how that worked. And then in the overall strategy, not in the middle part. So for me, it was a huge steep learning curve, which I think definitely you and Lee, have to shout out to Lee at Force 24. You know, very, very patient with me, especially in getting set up with the business.
Yeah, no, do you know what? Everybody's the same. So you weren't any different, Charlie. You guys were, you perhaps you were fairly new to the role, as I recall, at that time. So it was like everything on your shoulders. But everybody's in the same boat. Whether we've got clients that are tiny micro entities, one guy, two guys. We've got those clients, and actually we find that they're usually quite forward-thinking, marketing-focused organizations. And marketing focus means I listen to everything. It doesn't just mean I'm just doing marketing. It means I'm listening everywhere. And marketers always say, well, why does it have to be like that? Which is sometimes really annoying, but it actually makes stuff better. Right the way up to the enterprise level clients where we're just a small cog in a big machine. And so it doesn't matter. Everybody comes and is often a little bit less in tune with automation principles than they perhaps had hoped or perhaps thought they were. Some people think I'm useless, I have no idea, and we'll help them. But then other people, do know a lot about it, got a lot of experience in it, and then they sort of fit right into the mold. So horses for courses.
Absolutely. So what does the future hold for Force 24? Kind of like what's coming next? What can people expect?
So loads of stuff, really. I mean, we're going to continue in our sort of UK, European sort of stance of domination, if we can. We are a thorn in the sides of the big guys now. There's no two ways about it. If you mention our name to HubSpot, they've got a horrendous story that they've made up about us guys. But
oh no.
Apparently I used to work in recruitment, and which I didn't. Nothing against recruiters, but I didn't. And we've only been going a couple of years. And anyway, whatever. So what's next is we're going to continue to make that sort of dent in the marketplace. We've got some awesome product innovations coming out. We're starting to scratch away at new markets through the use of product innovation. One of the things we've done is we're opening the door to paid search. Paid search is very much, the paid search agencies of this world or the in-house search guys of this world have got all the power of Google at their fingertips, all the power of MSN, Bing, whatever it's called now, whatever, at their fingertips. But then they're shoving this data, this extremely sophisticated data with extremely sophisticated adverts, with extremely sophisticated bid strategies into really basic environments, i.e. your website, i.e. your landing pages. And one of the things that we're doing now is we've just released it actually, is a component that now listens to the ad that you've come from, that swaps out all the various components on the page, so we can display your content that's, so stuff like that is big. We're going to be doing a lot more work in making your life easier. So my principle is, if it takes you 5 minutes right now, can I make it take one? I want it to take you 1 minute. So, a lot of things that we keep harping on about if it takes you any more than 5 minutes to build an email, you're doing something wrong. It takes you more than 15 minutes to build a landing page, you're doing something wrong. And we're going to be trying to make that smaller, make it even less. If we can do 10 minutes, we do 2 minutes. This is what we're going to be doing. We're also we're building a massive project at the moment, which is a big engineering project under the underlying data layer. It's boring for people to listen about, but it will. As I was saying before, we understand our role in the world. We understand that we're going to start to do some really exciting in-app stuff as the next generation starts to come through. And it's going to be more about that sort of transactional level data retention that is about, that's our job to retain, hold, and execute on. And, at the minute, we are primitive human beings in comparison to the kids that are coming through now. I watch my kids on their phones, 8 and 10, and their phones and their iPads and their Xbox 360 or whatever. And the messaging and the subtle art of selling within those games are becoming extremely refined. They don't use email. They don't use SMS. They're not interested in that. It's much more detailed than that. So for us as mere mortals to keep up with them, we're going to have to start to engineer some pretty sophisticated environments that sit underneath it. So that's come in. That's really exciting.
So a marketing automation platform that focuses on email and SMS that acknowledges that the new generations are not using email and SMS.
Yes,
you have to innovate or die. Who was it who coined that phrase? I've got no idea.
I don't know, but real smart guy. Well, it's true, isn't it? When you think about it, email, what a flat, boring environment that is. And SMS, well, you know what? Again, total junk. But it is absolutely imperative to businesses. It's such a powerful form of communications, because what's our other options? We either get on the phone, come and see you, send you a letter. So, as I don't believe that email's on its way out. I don't believe SMS is on its way out. I think, there probably will be a day when it does, but, I don't think it's anytime soon. There will be other channels that become more prominent. But there's some part of me, and maybe it's a slightly perverse part of my brain, but I like getting offers. I like receiving emails, and I like being told there's a discount on something, or I like it. So
I can't agree that I like it so much, but I've definitely, especially in the last 18 months since going out on my own, I've been very analytical of my own behaviors between buying software, buying service, like other business services, buying, apps and designing things. And I'm just like, I hate people that constantly email you like every day, reminding you of the offer, reminding you of the deadline. And I'm like, actually, I was the person that signed up to that program 5 minutes before the cutoff date, and read every single email that was sent to me, hating every minute of it, but I still did what they wanted me to. And it's the same. It's just like, I respond to offers. I have emails that sit in one of my inboxes for months, and it's only every now and again that I decide to then check it and then re-engage with that brand. And I think it's these things that a lot of people, because on the face of it, you hate that behavior and you hate it, but then if you actually sit back and analyze how you interact with other businesses and other brands, you're like, it does work.
It does. As annoying as it is, it kind of does. Or just do as you're told the first time you're told, and then you won't have that problem.
Well, I don't know. I'm a deadline, a deadline dancer. Like the 4 different buyer types. If you look at that, it's like kind of you have the spontaneous buyers, people that will instantly snap up an offer, especially if they're bought into the brand. You have your humanistic buyers that need a compelling reason. They need lots of testimonials and case studies and backups from other people to say that this is the product for them. You've got your methodical buyers that need all of the detail, all of the technical detail, and all of the information that most people do not care about at all, but they need it. And then you've got your kind of lastminute.com buyers that will analyze everything and then make the decision at the very last minute.
Well, you know what, Charlie, that's really interesting you talk about this. I've written a piece that's about this. Okay, so it's called the ultimate nurture sequence. Now, the thing is, what you said there is you've got I don't know how many, it's like 5 or 6 different
4 different buyer types,
4 different buyer types. Okay, so you've got 4 different buyer types, but it's not to say that you should say you're buyer type A, therefore I won't talk to you about the other types, but because actually what you responded on that one, but you absorbed the others. Okay, so it makes it really difficult. So if you're so I've got a rule. Okay, so if I'm producing a piece of content and I want you to read this piece of content or do this thing, and it's a white paper or a PDF or something like that, it's worth 18 social media posts and 6 emails. That's the view. Okay, so you've got to be able to execute 18 social media posts and 6 emails for every piece of content you do. Obviously, if it's worth a lot more than that and it's multi-dimensional, we've got to go even deeper still. So what I've got to do is I've got to take into account the fact that you've got different types of human beings out there, right? I've got to take into account you're busy, you're on holiday, you're whatever. And then I've got to take into account what I call a human argument. Okay, so the human argument says that there are 6 stages or 6 things I need to do to get you to do something. Okay, so first thing I've got to do from the human argument is that I've got to introduce an introduction. I've got to introduce what I want you to do. So let me put this into context. Do you want to go to the pub, Charlie? So there we go. I've put it out there. Do you want to go to the pub? So you're going to go, or maybe ignore me. Okay, then I'd say, okay. Next step, the second step along that chain is, social proof. So this is the case studies. This is the one of the so this is me saying, oh, John's coming. Come on, we'll go to the pub. John's coming. Okay, so I'm reiterating the argument through. The next thing is gain. So gain is, I'll buy you a pint. Now, obviously, you got to put this into your context, but this is all in one of the guides I've written. It's brilliant. So I've got the gain. The gain is, I'll buy you a pint. Next thing is fear, and really frustratingly, fear pulls like a steam train, and it's the one that everybody, well, not everybody, but there's another one I'll tell you in a moment which responds just as well, but it's
we fear loss greater than we value gain.
Absolutely. That's weird, isn't it? It's weird. So fear, right? Okay, last time you didn't come out, we all had a great time and you missed out, whatever. So next thing is logic. And logic is where I pull it all together for you. So I say, come on, let's go to the pub. I'll buy you a pint. John's coming. Don't miss out this time because we had a great time. But now, after logic, I've got to introduce urgency. And this is the sixth and final step, which says, come on, we're going now. Now, if you think about the change that you've received in the past of these emails and think, how they've approached it across time, maybe they've used a similar methodology, maybe they've used that methodology, but that's the one that we've said, look, if you were going to convince somebody to do it, that's what you do. We've broken it down. We've given example templates of how you'd address that. And it's really interesting because on average, you've also got to remember, I open 1 in 6 commercial emails. 1 in 6. And I always challenge anybody to try and remember an email they received yesterday. That not from a friend, not from Jet2 or Groupon, because they come in every single day. I'm talking about a commercial email that you received yesterday. Remember it, go. Nobody can, maybe if it was something of interest, maybe they've hit you, maybe you've retained it. Most people can't. And that's the thing. Most people can't. So we're marketeers sat in our ivory towers thinking, oh, you sent out that fear message and, oh, it's going to upset people or whatever. It's not going to upset people. It's going to resonate with the people that it resonates with at that particular time. And the rest of you won't even remember it. It's gone. It's dead. It didn't exist. And so it's interesting when you sort of look at it from that perspective as you receiving it and then understanding the psychology from this end. And then actually the lethargy argument that we all face is, I can't be bothered. And the level of commitment I actually face in my head.
Yeah. It's that overwhelm again, isn't it? So everybody feels overwhelmed in all sorts of different aspects of business, whether it's like overwhelm of being marketed to, overwhelm of doing the marketing yourself, overwhelm of following up with people and everything else. But what you're saying as well is that kind of, I think what we've covered quite a lot in this interview is that the real value of working, sort of on your business instead of in your business. Because when you work in your business, you can't always see those psychological drivers that make your, that dictate your own buying habits, that dictate the business's buying habits, that dictate what your customers want to do as well. If you're working in it all the time, you're too, sort of tunnel visioned about what's going on.
You turn to broadcast, don't you? You turn to broadcast, which is, I want to tell you this, bang, I want to tell you this. And you're just broadcasting all the time rather than inviting conversation. It's hard. And, it's like I said to you before, Charlie, I mean, how we all right for time on this?
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll probably wrap this up soon.
Okay. The other thing is about killing that complexity. So you're not over engineering things in your business world that don't matter. It's if things take too long, you have to question whether it's worth doing or is there a better way of doing it, focusing on the bits that matters. And busy people don't usually tend to make good products or good businesses. They make very, you're freeing your time up from the minutiae, not necessarily getting other people to do it, but it's killing complexity, making life easy, and then actually just absorbing things and taking a moment to think about how you behave and what people might want to hear about rather than broadcast all the time.
Yeah. I think for me as well, like with email, the biggest thing, especially in the B2B field, is clarity. there is so much noise and so much complexity, or like trying to bombard everybody with too much information, too many sort of like technical features, too much detail. Whereas that kind of, you want to get people on the phone to then identify, do they need to know all of these things? Do they want to know? And if so, if they want to know it, why do they want to know it? But, just be super clear, because I think it was like talk about events and trade shows. It's like people aren't clear about what it is that they're doing in the emails that they send in the follow-up as well. It's still just as confusing. And you just like sat there going, well, what does this company actually do at the end of the day? And so then you're just like more inclined to then hit unsubscribe, or getting irrelevant emails, like knowing your audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. That's super clarity. It's one of those things. I do this thing. It's called a squint test, right? It's where I sit back like this. If I'm appraising anything, it's an ad, it's a microsite, it's a whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm sit back in my chair like this and I squint at it. And if that, in my opinion, represents the same amount of intel that the average person who doesn't know you, doesn't care about you, up that ad, viewing that ad on the web page, receiving that email, whatever, that sort of, if you can sit back in your chair, squint and see what that is telling you, and it is clear as day, then you've got a winner. If not, get rid. And I find that people tend to be too verbose and try to be too intelligent sounding. Brands, the big brands have a tone of voice, and that tone of voice is to set the charge. So that when we, most tone of voices have a reading age of about 8. And it's quite bizarre actually, because most adults have got a much lower reading age than we realize. My reading age is probably only that of a 15-year-old or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Maybe it's not. But I mean, the point is, the Sun's written for a reading age of about 8 as well, isn't it? Or the date. So
with priorities as well. It depends on what you're doing at the time. If you're reading an email that's sent to you by a business, are you actually focusing all of your brain power on reading that email?
Yeah, that's
or are you skim reading it, and then do you just need to know like kind of headlines to then decide whether or not you want to take it one step further or not?
Yeah, bingo. And if you can squint test it and it gets that message across, I'll commit a few more milliseconds of my brain power to maybe understand some of the lower stuff that maybe gives me a bit more detail, and then maybe, just maybe, click. And that's then when I'm on the journey.
There you go. It's all about that journey. Awesome. Well, we've been chatting for quite a while now, so I probably need to wrap it up. Are you able to send me that document so I can share that with everybody in the show notes? Because I think that will be really interesting to read. And do you have any kind of like parting words of wisdom or guidance that you want to share with our listeners?
I'd love to have something profound to say at this stage, but I don't. Buy British. That's probably the most. No, I know we've got global audiences, but it's very much, I mean, businesses out there, it's not just about the big boys. There is lots of great opportunities. There's so many niche, really, really powerful niche tech products coming out of every little corner of every little country, and they are just revolutionizing our world. It just is easy to get overwhelmed and dumbfounded with lots of newfangled tech. So perhaps take it easy. So nothing really more exciting and profound than that to offer.
Oh, I love it though. It's just like, don't always rely on the tech giants, because it's all about the tech startups, which is I adore tech startups. I love looking at tech startups as well. So great advice there. And if anybody wants to contact you or find out more about you or Force24, what's the best way that they can do that?
Well, if you go to our website, force24.com, you can either book a demo, you can ask us a question, there's even a little chat on there. Where you can chat directly to one of our team. So yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
No problem.
And good luck with everything. I look forward to hearing more about your updates.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks a lot.
Worries.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.
Worries.